The council meeting on this Tuesday, July the 21st, 2020, and all council members are present and accounted for, and I'm Mayor Guy Fugel, and we have Councilmember Lamone, Jensen,
Anderson.
Williams, and Bullock, all present here. So we will start out this evening by having a pledge of allegiance by Councilmember Lamone. No, excuse me, by Councilmember Anderson, after which opening remarks will be given by Councilmember Lamone.
All right, all rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for the opportunity to come here tonight to council meeting as mayor, council, and staff and residents to be able to discuss ideas and concerns and issues that are facing our community at this time. We thank Thee for the opportunity we have to serve our community and to live in Pleasant Grove. Please bless that we can go throughout the night tonight with an open mind and open heart, that we will be able to listen to the residents that are going to be speaking tonight, to their concerns and how we can best address those. Please bless that we can make the decisions that are in the best interest for our residents at this time, as well as our business owners, and as community leaders, that we can do our best to be examples to others. We love Thee, and we say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Before we move to our next item, I just want to mention that and recognize the passing of Casey Larson.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, he was involved here in our community and gave us a lot of good input, and I appreciated working with him over the years, and we wish his family well, and we're deeply saddened. He was 43 years old, left a wife and 2 kids. And so all of you, we don't know when our time's up on this earth, so use every day that you can. So, and I'm sure he wasn't anticipating that he wouldn't be here. So anyway, with that, we'll move on to approval of tonight's meeting agenda. Is there any changes, Scott?
No changes.
No changes, then I ask for a motion.
Mayor, with that, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda.
Have a motion by Councilmember Jensen.
Second.
Have a second by Councilmember Anderson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Passes unanimously. We'll now go to our open session, and if there's anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and address the council, you're welcome to do that now. If you'd still just state your names for the record.
No problem. Jim Adams. I live over in Mudhole on 600 North. So Todd, I've mentioned this to you via message a little bit. So I had a gentleman back in, the 2011 or 2012 that moved in, bought the house diagonal across from me, and he was a member of the military, of the Army. Unfortunately, he died in wounds sustained in battle in 2013, Staff Sergeant Leo Henscheid. His parents have taken over his house, and they've been here for about 6 years. The dad, Don Henscheid, which I'm sure some of you have met, he came to the Citizens Academy. And his family, the Walkers, date clear back to the beginning of Pleasant Grove.
Yeah.
And I apologize, I don't know the exact name of which Walker, but you know there are a lot of them. What I'd like to do on 600 North between 1300 West and I believe it's 1580 West, just a kind of a short section, is keep that as 600 North, but can we put another name on it as, SSG Henscheid or something like that? As we're seeing throughout the nation that military and police officers and whatnot are really not getting the respect that they should. I'd really love it if, Pleasant Grove said, hey, we're not going to go that route, and we're going to continue to keep these people where they need to be and being recognized. So if that's something, and I know that I did reach out to Marty, and I know everybody's extremely busy. I've left between him and Matt 6 voicemails as well as 2 emails, and I haven't gotten any response back. So I'm just seeing which way I need to go to make this happen.
Well,
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
He sent it to me. I forwarded it on to Marty. Maybe Marty can comment on where we are with that, but maybe we need to talk
Okay,
Jim, are you on, you're to leave the 600, like 600 west, but just underneath, do like something's away or?
Right. I mean, we don't want to mess up our street system by any means and start throwing names out. I mean, keep it as a 600 North, and it's more for recognition for the family. There's actually a street sign right on their corner on 1380 West as a cul-de-sac. So as a neighborhood, we've put a flagpole there years ago to commemorate his 3rd-year anniversary. And I thought, you know what, there's a street sign there. Why not have it right there in front of the flag? So I thought it's something that, and as far as cost, us as a community are willing to take care of that. We don't want to put that on the city. It's just a matter of getting the A-OK or tell me where to get the signs made.
okay, well, Marty, would you kind of chime in? What's the process?
So yes, I apologize for the slow response. We have looked at it. We have looked, there's driven down the street. There's 3 signs that would need to be changed essentially to do that. We do have a policy on our street standards that the name of the street would be secondary to the actual address of the street, which would be the I think it's 540 North, 600 North Street. And then in parentheses, we typically on all of our name streets will have the address, and then underneath of it, we would have the name. And so in this situation, I think it's a very small section from 13th West over to 1550 that would need to change 3 signs that would honor him. So that's something that we were planning to bring to you. I just haven't had a chance to review through it. It does say in our standards that if that request is made, that those requesters would actually pay for the sign change. There's only 3 signs in one direction, so I'm pretty sure that we're talking very minimal cost of $20 or $30 per sign. I'd have to work that out, but.
Okay, well,
Marty, does that address naming streets after people? Or is it just if somebody wants to put a name on it?
Our standards don't say, it just says if you choose to name it something besides the directional address, it has to be secondary on the sign.
I think we just have to address what qualifies, right?
Yeah, we're going to want to set up some criteria because we could get other requests and there might be some that would be appropriate and some that probably wouldn't be appropriate. And we have to determine, I think, what that is. It's like naming.
It does have to come to the council, though, for any name change request, I believe, by the ordinance. So yes, the council is the final decision.
Well, so I don't know, I mean, we can have criteria or the council can just yes or no each time. I mean, there's different ways to do
We
that.
don't
But
get them too often, but I think it's a good idea to have some criteria.
So most of the name changes like this happen at the time of development, right? A developer comes in and he wants to name a whole development with street names instead of a street address. So that commonly happens on every one, and we have the same policy there. But yes, on a one-off, I want you to name it my street because I live on that street. We don't get too many, I've never actually,
Well, my concern is not, if somebody said, hey, I want this to be Hancock Drive, it's more naming it after somebody and the criteria for that, so that the next time somebody comes in and says, well, my grandpa lived here for 50 years and he died and I want to name the street after him, we need to have a little bit of an understanding as to what would qualify. Somebody being in the military makes more sense to me than somebody that maybe lived here for 50 years or something like that. So, because cities get stuck with these things. When I say stuck, they get requests on a consistent basis. This might be the first time we've ever had one for one of our street names, so.
Yeah.
If we do this, let's think through it just a little bit before we pull the
So-
trigger on that.
yeah, so can staff bring something back? and-
Yeah, let us, because I'm sure other cities have something like that. We can probably just reach out and see what
Okay.
that is. But let's run them through the process. Maybe this can be simultaneous. We can do the approval and then also approve the criteria at the same time.
Do you have a timing? You mentioned an anniversary.
December 17th, I believe.
Oh,
would be the
We can meet
6th
that.
7 year.
We can meet that.
So we have some time.
Okay.
Jim, has he
And-
also had his name engraved on the memorial wall at the cemetery?
I don't know if he has it.
Okay, we need to do that as well. Okay.
And then on the signs, the street signs, I would love to know a price on that, so.
I'm pretty, we're just changing one sign, small street sign, so I'm pretty sure it's probably not that much.
Okay, I'd love to know that.
Okay, thank you.
So should I follow up with council, with Marty?
Marty.
With Marty. Marty.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Anyone else like come forward and address the council? don't see a big rush for the podium, so we'll now close our open session and move on to item number 6, our consent items tonight to be voted on as the city council meetings of our July 7th, 2020 meeting, and to consider for approval payment request number 1 for DB Bush excavation for our 700 South Sewer Improvement Project, and to consider for approval payment approval reports of July 16th, 2020 that is in your packet that you've reviewed. So I ask for a motion. if
Mayor,
there's
make a
no other
motion to
questions.
approve tonight's consent items.
Okay, we have an
Just trying to help
We have
Scott
a
out
motion?
here. Yep.
from Councilmember Jensen. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Councilmember Bullock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We do not have any board, commission, or committee reports this evening or presentations. We'll move on to item number 9, our public hearing, to consider for adoption Resolution 2020-042, amending fiscal year 21 budget fee schedule by making a technical correction to the storm drain MS4 LID residential development fee. There's no change in fee, providing for an effective date. Director.
Mayor, council, as we were adopting our fee schedule, we were trying to get in there a fee that is coming up with regards to our stormwater impact, our stormwater fees when a developer comes in and wants to develop. What you'll be seeing tonight also is there's 2 other portions of this. One is a change to our ordinance, another is a change to our stormwater technical manual, and I believe there's also a change into our Chapter 10 ordinance that's still not here. So we're piecing this in. We did the impact, or the original fee schedule. We incorrectly labeled it as acre feet instead of cubic feet on the way that we charge that. So essentially, it's about 43,560 times difference or something. I think that's how many cubic feet are in an acre foot, and we need to measure it by cubic feet, not acre feet. So that's the change to the fee schedule, is changing that from acre feet to read cubic feet.
Any questions for Marty? Thank you, Marty. With that, we will open up our public hearing and invite anybody to come forward and address the council if they would like to on this. I see no one come forward. We'll now close our public hearing, bring it back up to the council for further questions or a motion. Do you have any?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2020-042, amending the FY21 budget fee schedule by making a technical correction to the storm drain MS4 LID residential development fee. There's no change in the fee, and providing for an effective date.
We have a motion by Councilmember Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Williams. And this will be a roll call vote. We'll start out with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes unanimously. We'll now go on to our action items this evening. Ready for vote. And our first one tonight is 10A. Consider for adoption ordinance 2020-15, amending Title V, Chapter 4, adopting Section 4, exceptions, providing for an exception to the prohibitions regarding hunting and discharge of weapons within the city limits for the urban deer control plan and providing for an effective date. General Counsel.
Mayor and council, this is basically a housekeeping item as well. Last council meeting, you approved the urban deer control plan and also entered an agreement with Humphreys, I think it's Archery, to execute that urban deer control plan. And we have a prohibition in our ordinance for no discharging of weapons within the city. And they are planning on using those certain types of weapons. So this is just an exception written into the ordinance, which specifically allows anybody who is engaged in the practice of harvesting deer pursuant to the adopted urban deer control plan. So it's not just anybody who's out there looking for urban deer, but somebody who's actually under contract with the city to implement our plan that's been adopted. That way their harvesting activities will be legal and not illegal.
Any questions for our council? Nope. If not, thank you.
It's interesting, I
And-
actually read the ordinance this morning as I was researching tonight's meeting and didn't realize that we had air rifles are actually illegal as well. Just, BB guns or things like that.
I can't be shooting those
Can't be
cats
shooting-
anymore. No, I don't do that.
Can't be shooting those, so.
Magpies.
So thanks, Tina. No, I don't have any other questions.
All right. Thought I would ask for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2020-15, amending Title 5, Chapter 4, adopting Section 4 exemptions, providing for an exception to the prohibitions regarding hunting and discharge of weapons within the city limits for the urban deer control plan and providing for an effective date.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams
Second.
and a second by Councilmember Jensen. This will be a roll call vote again. Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
How about slingshots? I know.
Okay.
My children are all in trouble.
Now go to 10B, consider for adoption ordinance 2020-16, amending Title 8 Utilities to provide for low-impact development standards for stormwater flows by adding Chapter 7, Low-Impact Development, and amending other subsections to include provisions for low-impact development standards, including Chapter 8, 6, and 5, reducing the stormwater flows required in storm drain design practices that comply with the low-impact development standards and imposing an MSA LID residential development fee and amending Title 11, Chapter 7, Section 4 and 5, primary plat and final plat, subsection 7, site plan requirements for permitted and conditional uses, adding provisions for low-impact development calculations, and providing for an effective date. Director, somebody stayed up pretty late to put that all down, so anyway. Oh.
Yes.
That's the short version?
All those acronyms actually have words associated with them, and they're all individual. It's fairly detailed there. So recently, there's been a new mandate from the Division of Water Quality that we have some new standards. It's called the Low Impact Development Standards that are applied to all of our stormwater discharge from any new development within the city. We're trying to get our ordinance in compliance with the new requirements that are mandated to us from the Division of Water Quality. That drills down as well from the EPA to them, and then we've got an MS4 permit with our that we manage our stormwater through, and that's where it's coming through. Essentially, the way that every community is just a little bit different. The way that we've decided to address this is we have essentially two areas of the city, mainly our residential area, north of State Street, any residential zones, and then we have our commercial zones. And essentially this new requirement is that if you are going to develop or redevelop a site, this is for 1 acre and larger sites of development, then they have to put in, we already require the installation of storm drain detention facilities and storm water facilities and cleaning facilities. But this kind of takes it to the next level up, that we need to make sure that they're not only meeting the flow requirements, actually trying to deal a little bit with trying to keep water in the place that it has naturally fallen, as well as clean it before it goes back into the ground or it flows through the system into our streams that go out to the lake. Essentially, the way that this is going to move forward, there's a technical manual that will be coming out. We're hoping to have that adopted into you on the 3rd of August. That manual essentially describes a process that if a developer comes in and says, I want to develop this piece of ground, what do I need to do? Just for stormwater, they'll have to go through that technical manual and describe how they're going to meet all of the requirements that is required now by the MS4 through the Division of Water Quality. So essentially, there's a cost. It's not an easy cost because what that means, per the new standards, is if a site is able to put that water into the ground, meaning that they have good draining soils and they're not in high groundwater and things of that nature, then they have to do that up to essentially about a 2-year storm event. So a event that happens once every 2 years has to maintain on-site with zero outflow. That's the requirement. That is a big requirement, and especially in Pleasant Grove, we're a little unique in that the area of our commercial is largely high groundwater and clays. So very difficult to get it into the ground, and it is high groundwater. If they don't meet, if there are exceptions, if they meet the exception, then they do another process of more water quality at looking at type of rain gardens and ways to clean that. So long story short, that's the development side of things. In the residential side of things, we chose to do more of a banking system to where we want to manage the infiltration of the water as a city rather than having every development come in to do their own injection, and then the city, they'll hand that off to us, and then we would be responsible for maintaining groundwater injection wells throughout the city. We have chosen to do more of a banking, which means that we collect funds, and that's what the fee is that was just adopted. With the impact fees, with the fee schedule, sorry, that we just adopted, that cubic feet. We'll calculate that, and then we will take the monies from that and put that into a facility. Largely will be in our existing facilities, but we'll have to modify those facilities in order to accommodate water to go into the ground. And so essentially, rather than we could have them do their development, put all of this into the ground, have them dedicate that to the city, then the city is going to be maintaining those underground facilities, and it becomes very expensive and difficult to maintain. And so our proposal, and they do allow this by the rule, is that you can do banking of that, meaning you can put the water in that was supposed to be up here, it can now be put in a different location, but we're still accounting for all of that water going into the ground in a volume sense, more so than a location sense. And so that's what this rule does. It allows us to, it kind of splits that up. The residential area is going to go into the, into this banking, but any of the commercial would handle that on site based on the technical manual that will be coming forward. So, but this is the change to the ordinance that's needed for that. So happy to answer any questions that you might have with that. This is something that all the cities, this isn't something unique to us. What's unique to us is the process of ways that we're trying to handle our residential area. That is unique to Pleasant Grove, but we feel it's the best way for us to be able to manage a system better than trying to do it in 100 places throughout the city.
So do we have underground detention basins now, or are our detention basins
Above
we
ground.
have some covered, but
So do we as a city, other than the one at the park here?
Yeah.
I don't believe we have any other underground facilities, but there
So-
are many commercial developments that do.
okay. So by volume, you're saying they're going to come into just a regular detention basin?
So, yes, but then it'll be
Retention,
modified.
okay.
So it'll be a retention, detention, right? The bottom portion will be retention. It'll put the water into the ground. The upper portion will still have an outlet because we've still got to handle more than a 2-year storm.
Right.
We've got to be able to put more water through that. So I wish I could come here and say we don't need stormwater pipes anymore and we can get rid of all that because of this new standard. Absolutely not. This does nothing we still have to meet all those requirements for the 25-year storm, the 100-year storm. It's just now some of that water will be going back into the ground as is required by the state, so.
Okay.
Any other questions for Marty? Thank you, Marty. If not, I'd ask for a motion for ordinance number 2020-16.
I'll see if I can take a shortcut here.
Yeah.
Mayor, make a motion for adoption of ordinance 2020-16 as read by the mayor previously.
That work? Okay.
And I'll second.
And do I have a second? We have a motion by Councilmember Jensen, and a second by Councilmember Anderson. This will be a roll call vote with, we'll start out with Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember
Yes.
Lamone.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock.
Yes.
And Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Okay. We'll now move on to item, this looks a lot better. 10C here, consider for adoption resolutions 2020-043, authorizing the mayor to sign a license agreement with the Union Pacific Railroad to allow for Pleasant Grove City to install sewer pipeline across property operated by the railroad at milepost 764.25 on the Provo Industrial LD subdivision at near the intersection of State Street and Center Street, and providing for an effective date. Director.
Mayor and Council, earlier this spring, we awarded a project that would put in a new sewer line. It would abandon a lift station that is here next to the Water Gardens and bring that sewer line across State Street. Here, as you can see, we're crossing those railroad tracks. In order to do that, we had to get a permit. This is the permit for that crossing, so we can bore underneath that. Just to clarify, the railroad line is actually owned by UDOT. UPR has an operating agreement on that line, but in their operating agreement, they do require essentially that we get all of our licensing through them and they review everything, but it's actually a UDOT rail line that's on operating through.
Marty, could you just go ahead and put a road across there too while you're at it?
Yeah, we were thinking
I
about
think it
how to
might be
do
a
that.
40-foot, 60-foot.
Solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, it's only underground. They don't want the scene. It has to be 8 feet below the tracks. I mean, there's a lot of requirements with that, but that's so we can get the project started.
Any other questions for Marty?
No.
Okay, thank you, Marty. Not, I'd ask for a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2020-043 as cited by the mayor previously.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Anderson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Bullock. This will be roll call again. We'll start with Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
And Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you.
Need a chair, Marty, or anything? You're good?
What's that?
Need a chair?
No, I'm good. This
Bottle
one
of
will be
water?
quick. This
So-
one will be the last one.
Okay, we'll continue on with
Big night for you, Marty.
Perfect.
with 10D, consider for adoption resolution 2020-044, authorizing the mayor to execute a sewer collection system and service agreement with the R.H. Borden Company LLC for sewer line and manhole inspection assessment services, providing for an effective date. Director.
Last year, we did a little test, kind of a pilot program to figure out if this technology would be something that would be useful to us. Essentially, it's called a sewer line rapid assessment tool. So I could give you the acronym, but it wouldn't matter. But that tool essentially goes in with acoustic sounds and sends it down from one manhole to another manhole, and it tests how open the pipe is. And it can go up to about a 12-inch pipe, I believe is the maximum size. They can't do large diameters, but they can do up to that. What we found from the pilot program is it was very useful in a quick assessment of our system as to whether or not there were any plugged lines or anything that we definitely need to check out. It really gave us a good thing. We were able to get temp sewer out, address a couple of areas that had some issues, and we felt that it was worth rolling this out citywide. In doing that, we had planned to do this in our budget. There is a budget item for this work, and one of the portions of that is just the amounts that we can move forward on. So we've moved forward on half of the city. So everything essentially east of this line, we're moving forward on based on the budget that we had. But we also had an additional budget of $110,000 for this item worked into our sewer budget this year. The 50,000, they're already underway. You may have seen some golf carts running around. They're doing the testing and giving us the information. We expect it to be done in about
Wow.
4 to 6 weeks. We added something to it this year as we wanted to know what was the status of all of our manholes in addition to our sewer lines. And so we worked with them on a process, gave them access to all of our manhole data and things of that nature. So they're assessing every one of our manholes throughout the city, every one of our sewer lines throughout the city, and we'll have a full assessment of our city sewer based on whether or not there's something blocking it and also the condition of the manhole, that whether it needs to be raised, whether or not there's some issues with, degradation of the manhole interior. So that's what this project is the phase to the west, which completes the rest of the city for this project and would get all of Pleasant Grove we'll have an assessment done in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And we'll definitely be back to kind of show you a little bit more about what we've got for that and what we found and the value that brought, because we feel like it'll bring a huge value to the sewer system.
Can you hear leaks or just
No, I don't.
blockage?
It's really just blockage if there's anything plugging that line. So our process right now is we try every 3 years to go through and televise. I think it's a third every year,
Yeah.
the system. And then we also try to clean every line, but you're cleaning clean lines. So you really don't know unless you've assessed that if you're going to have a problem. You may be cleaning an area and you may not get there for another year or two where the problem actually exists. This allows us to do it in a very quick, this might be every 5 years type of a process versus an every year process, and then we can really focus on the areas we know that are problem areas and get them fixed before they have problems. So.
Any other questions for Marty?
No.
Thank you, Director. And ask for a motion on Resolution 2020-044.
Mayor, I make a motion for adoption of Resolution 2020-44, authorizing the mayor to execute a sewer collection system service agreement with R.H. Borden and Company LLC for sewer line and manhole inspection and assessment services and providing for an effective date.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jensen. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilmember Anderson. And with that, it will be a roll call vote, and we'll start out with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes unanimously. And we'll now move on to our next item and our final item this evening for action items. 10E, to consider for adoption Resolution 2020-045, authorizing the mayor to sign an amended participation agreement for the Utah County Officers Involved Critical Incident Protocol and providing for an effective date. Chief Roberts, are you going to present this to us?
Well, you're on the agenda, but I'm happy to do it either way. What?
Said you explained it.
Plus, you're closer.
I'm close. I can walk up here.
We'll have General Counsel do it.
Mayor and council, if you'll remember back in January or February, we looked at an officer-involved critical incident protocol that was being proposed by the county police chiefs. And you adopted it, and subsequent to that, they actually had several incidents that they had to use the protocol. And in actually using it, they've discovered that there are a few things that needed to be amended. So the police chiefs got together. The first item that you'll see in your packet after the resolution is the red line strikeout information that they sent to us about what the exact changes are. There aren't anything that caused me any concern. They're mostly just procedural issues for them that make their lives easier in executing the protocol. And so they've asked us to adopt an amended one with those changes.
Any other questions for our council? Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
And with that, I would ask for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-045, authorize the mayor to sign an amended participation agreement for the Utah County Officer-Involved Critical Incident Protocol and providing for an effective date.
I have a motion by Councilmember Williams.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Councilmember Lamone. This will be a roll call vote again. We'll start with Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
And that is unanimous. Thank you for your participation this evening and your voting. And that finishes our action items for vote this evening. And we'll now move on to item number 11. We'll continue from our work session. And we'll give the opportunity to Chief Roberts. You want to, since you're at the back there, do you want to come forward and tell us how our officers, it was good to see a bunch of them here this evening supporting
Yes.
the new ones.
That was very touching.
That was nice. I actually like doing that. I think it was important for their families too. I think they liked that. Made them feel important. So I don't have a lot to report tonight. I've been out of town for a week, so it was nice to get away. As far as the department goes, it's going well. Busy summer. We were able to get our tasers in hand, the brand new ones. They're state of the art, basically. So we've got those for the patrol division. We were able to send an officer to California to be certified as an instructor, so he can come back and make sure the officers are certified to use those, which is good. So we're moving forward with that. We're in the process of finishing up an online traffic school program, which was made by a program called Powtoon. Some of you have probably heard of it. Much better than PowerPoint, so you don't sit there and just look at a bunch of numbers and want to hang yourself. It's a really impressive program. So our goal is to put on one a month where people can actually come in and get involved, because we do still have a handful of people that like to come in and be one-on-one with the officers and have the interaction, and then we'll have the opportunity to have a couple throughout the month where they can just jump online and do that, and we'll finish that up. And we're kind of waiting on the city, the internet person, to some of the YouTube videos we need to tie down and make sure that we have the right to use those, and so that's been kind of a headache, but we're in the process of doing that. As far as the call load's been busy, nothing real important to report. And since the last council meeting, we've had two really big cases. Detective Ben Knopp and Sergeant Sean Nelson have worked two really big child sex crimes cases, and we put some really bad people in jail, and they turned out really well. And so there are some interesting cases that we were lucky to snag and get enough information to make some good arrests. So
Thank you.
worked out well.
Any other questions for the chief?
Thank
Hey,
you.
we appreciate all you do.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Daniel, why don't you're usually the star of the night, and we haven't even heard from you tonight, so.
It's been 2 weeks since the the posting that we did for code enforcement, and it's ending pretty soon. We have one applicant, and hopefully we get a couple more soon. But I've been taking care of some of the complaints that we have had already. At least we're keeping track of every single thing, and the ones that I can do it, I've been taking care of them. But as soon as the guy starts or the lady starts working with us, we have a lot of work for that person. So we're excited to get somebody. Lately I've been getting a lot of requests about adding some new uses to the Grove, or including residential, and I've been just sharing the information, the direction that I have received from City Council. So that's what we've been doing. Like I said, despite of the COVID or things that we've been going through this year, we've been as busy as usual.
Okay, glad you're staying busy.
Thank you, Daniel.
That means we're growing.
We're growing. Definitely we're
So,
growing.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. Appreciate everything you do. think we don't have our fire chief here tonight, but if, with his faithful assistant, please come forward and update us on. I guess you're acting chief tonight,
Yeah,
right?
I'm pretending today
Yeah,
is what it
okay.
is, so.
He's just deputy chief.
Yeah, I'm just pretending, but, yeah, things in the fire department are going good, been a little busy. Our call volume's picked up a little bit in the past little while. Whether it's, this virus or not, I'm not sure, but we've kind of gotten a little bit busier. We've been able to get, we received all of our ultraviolet lights we ordered, and I think we passed them out to most of the departments now. It's just about a 2-foot light you hang over, and it kind of kills things on surfaces, uneven surfaces. So most department heads should have received those, and they can use those in cleaning in offices, bathrooms, whatever they need to do. Other than that, I think everything's going pretty good.
Okay, well, any questions for the chief?
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Yes,
I may have a question for Chief Roberts.
okay, go
Can I
ahead.
do that? Chief, I know we've got a flag bin out here. It's not COVID, I promise. We've got a flag bin out here. It looks like it's a little over, it's filling up. So it's either Boy Scouts or military, right?
Boy Scouts.
Yeah, Boy Scouts or military can discard flags, right? What is the process? I know Boy Scouts are starting to. I'm not sure of the process, but I'll get it figured out tomorrow. Okay, all right. If I can help find a Boy Scout troop or.
Dion has
I thought when the Boy Scout came and who donated the box, it was going to be the city's responsibility after he
is.
donated to dispose of the flags.
Yeah.
But if there's a Boy Scout troop that may want to take over the burning of the flags or that process, but I was under the impression it was up to the city now to maintain that.
So it was Robert Richards, and he lives over by the post office. And so it would be very simple to coordinate that with him. If
Well, was it his intent, I guess that's the question, was it his
Yes.
intent?
Ongoing to take care of
to
that?
Come get the flags out and take care of them?
Oh,
So it is up to
I
us.
was under
then
that
to-
impression.
I think it was the cities.
So as staff, we'll figure that out. We'll get that taken care of.
Okay, if we can help, I'm not trying to. If I can help or find somebody, I'm happy to do that. So.
Marty, would you like to come up and update us on your projects? And maybe your trip tomorrow.
So the Battle Creek Springs project, the contractor's pulling out of there on Friday, and they'll be closing things up. We'll come back and finish a gate, but that's about all they've got to do. They're getting really close. We've met with the Forest Service, and everybody seems to be happy with where we're ending up here. The trail looks great. Have some great pictures I should have just came and showed you of how the trail looks, and I think the questions of everybody saying, this looks terrible, are we gonna come back and fix something, were valid concerns because we weren't done, but now we're finished and it looks great. They've really tried to define the trail and deal with some dips so that it doesn't wash out and taking it off the side of the mountain and those types of things. So I think there's just a few that will go up tomorrow, and we'll let them kind of see what the Springs project was and where they're at, and also what we did. And we'll walk down from the top down to Battle Creek Falls and into the bottom there. So it should be a fun little hike and informational, hopefully, for those that would like to go with us. The filter project, we're still waiting on just tying things together. They got the last meter finally in. That was kind of delayed by about 2.5 months.
You mean the secondary water filter?
So yes, the filter project, so all of the 3 filters that were on the main turnout from the Alpine Aqueduct are in and operational. We had the changes of the screen in Grove Creek and Battle Creek, and both of those are in and operational and working awesome. We've got 3 meters that were installed, and we're just getting those last ones connected up. We've got 1 operated gate that will be able to be operated remotely, so we don't have to go up there at 6 o'clock every night with an off-duty person to do that. Our on-call person has to go every night and do that and make that change from the irrigation company to the city. And so now we've got those, and those will be operated remotely from our cell phones. through our SCADA system, and we'll be able to see a better split of how the water is being used between the irrigation company and Pleasant Grove City to try to make sure that the shares that we have in the irrigation company are being used and are equivalent to what we have, but at the same time trying to work with the irrigation company to make sure they have what they need. It'll just allow us to operate a lot better. So we're excited for that one to come to a close as well. That one will be closing up here shortly. We just got to get some of the SCADA tied in now that we got the last meter in this last about a week and a half ago, and then we should be operational. We still got 2 gates that we're still working on, but so we're done with the 700 South project. We have a final on that project, I think Thursday of this week. So the sewer line went in, everything went well, other than it was a mess on 700 South. But that's now done, looks great. We'll be working on an overlay project on 700 South from Geneva Road to PG Boulevard. Hopefully that will happen here in the next couple of months before the end of the fall season of paving. 13th West, there by Pleasant Grove Boulevard, that's well under construction now. They've got everybody shifted over to 2 lanes and are constructing the east half of the road. That's been going now for about a week and a half, and will go on for the next month and a half or so to finish that project. They'll do the east half, and then they'll flip traffic over to the east and then do the west. We've also got the north portion of that right at State Street being done in conjunction with Larry Myler and the Hidden Springs project, and they're finishing up on the storm drain installation that we had them do to so we could extend the road over and widen that road. So all of that should be completed here, I'm guessing, in the next couple of months, at least by the end of the season, and open back up for traffic. And that's kind of a mess as well. And it's just, when you start reconstructing whole roads, you've got to be able to get traffic on one side and then kick them to the other. So we felt like we had an opportunity to get that to 1 lane. So it's been kind of messy there, but it's because we've had to get in and replace a 48-inch storm drain line, which took a lot of room to do that as well. So
Where are we at with 100 East and widening the road out here?
100 East is still on hold, Sid. We haven't got a response yet from the county as to
How can we
whether-
get one? Because we need to get that done like this, end of summer, beginning of fall. So how do we get a response from them?
Good luck, Sid.
Yeah, we can reach out again, and if you want
Like,
to
are they just not returning
direct it
calls,
through-
or?
I have not heard back from them after about 3 calls and emails over the last 3 months. So I know that they're busy on things. We're finishing up the First East project punch list. There's 2 or 3 items done, and then that project's completed, but they have not responded as far as the widening and when they think they can get that designed and completed with us. So I wish I had something more. It's not from our end as far as not being able
Right.
to push it, but if there's something, Mayor has any push or pull on that, but we haven't got a response on them for
Yeah,
being able
it's
to get that
coming.
project done.
Oh, my.
Marty, on the punch list on First East, I spoke with you earlier about the problem just past my house. When vehicles come down there, there's a high spot. And if they're pulling a trailer, you can hear it. I was actually down to the ballpark last night watching a game, and I can hear usually it's an empty trailer or something like that, but it's loud.
Okay.
When it hits that. And they need that. What they did is there's a water meter there, or an access to
Water
the
valve or something
secondary,
in the
yeah.
street?
They left it up too high,
Okay,
and I don't know if that's on your punch list.
it
but
is not, but I can definitely look into it and we can get it
Needs to
addressed.
be fixed.
So people are hitting that, it's making the trailers bounce. It's just
Oh,
really
yeah,
loud.
oh,
and
yeah.
it's noisy. Okay.
And it happens at least 100, 150 times a day.
Okay. We'll look at that. It must be right in the wheel path, and
Yeah,
then
it
they
is.
left it a little high, so.
It is.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up. I know we talked about the ADA and we talked about some issues
Yeah,
with the
yes.
pedestrians, but I don't remember that one, but I will make sure we follow up on that.
Thank you.
Anything else? for Marty? Oh,
150.
Continue, Marty.
Sorry. We got a lot of projects if you want to.
No,
150 north between. Well, maybe we don't have to talk about it next week, but 150 north is getting close as well. We're just finishing up the subgrade. They've done the proof roll. We're fixing a couple of soft spots. Paving should happen in the next couple of weeks, and that project will be done. The water line's done, storm drain line's in where we needed it, and curb gutter and sidewalks in. So that one will be moving forward as well, and there's lots of exciting stuff going on. Busy.
Okay,
Thank you.
Director Giles.
I really don't have a lot to, or also, it's hot, it's very dry. We're seeing a lot of issues arise on the trail now because it's been so dry and we haven't had any moisture. But things are going well, things are busy. We'll finish up baseball, I believe, this week, softball in 3 weeks, and start soccer in about 3 or 4 weeks. So we'll be playing at the junior high. The high schools finally let Tyler go in and rent that facility, so we'll be able to play at the junior high, which we were kind of stressing over at the beginning, so, but things are going good.
Cool.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Everything looks like there's, at least the grass is staying green in a lot of places, so that's good.
Actually, Marty, I do have a question. How are we at the water level? How are we with our water flow? And I'm sorry that you can just yell.
Shout.
We need a portable mic.
We do.
At the end of the season, last season, we had, I believe it was around 500 acre feet of holdover water.
Right.
That we were able to save from the previous years. We made some really good decisions with John Chief's help this spring. We started using some of that before it spilled, and we're able to utilize about half of it, but all of the holdover water was spilled this year from everybody. So if we hadn't chosen to use that right at the beginning of this spring, we would have just lost it. But we thought that might happen. We started using it. We got about half of it used, and now so because of that, we're sitting okay this year as far as our water sources and water available to us. If we have another dry year this year, I was looking at the things this week. I think it's at 60% of normal precipitation up on Temp to date, and so we're really low. All of our springs are low. Grove Creek is down significantly, 200 or 300 gallons a minute. And then Battle Creek is starting to pick up a little bit, but still lower than normal. And so there's those things that we have to worry about, which means we have to use more of the sources coming from the Provo River. And but as of this year, we're going to be okay. We have had, and it'll be coming out in the newsletter, we're working on a little bit of a water conservation note to put in the newsletter. But we have had a few days where we've almost peaked out on our maximum draw from our turnouts. And they weren't really even in the middle of the summer. So we have a significant overusage problem. Just to say it bluntly, but we're using a lot more water than we need to be using. And I think there's the philosophy of it's there, I pay for it, I'm going to use it is prevalent throughout the community, and use it whenever they can, multiple times a day, just to get a good watering in, because it's going to be off for a day. We got to get twice in or something of that nature. And we got to somehow get that under grips, because the reality is that we get a couple of dry years here and we'll be buying water again to try to meet the needs that we have. And but because of some good water usage in the past, we've been able to get through this year. If we get a dry year next year, we may be talking a different story, because we won't have any holdover water to be able to get us through the season.
So we're not going to have any holdover this year?
We used what we could.
Yeah,
There is no more, but we still have all of our water available to us that we would have normally had. It was 100% allocation of our normal water. Sometimes we get a cut of our allocation just because there's not enough water. Deer Creek filled, it spilled, and therefore we were able to get our 100% allocation. It's very technical, but
we're not.
We're okay. We feel good this year. We have peaked out on some of our turnouts, which means that we have so much we can get out of that place based on our agreements, and we've hit those peaks in a few of our turnouts this year, and we aren't built out. So we've got to keep that in mind as we move forward on our water conservation goals, and trying to keep it to where we can reasonably manage that during a dry year.
So do we still have our water enforcement officers?
We have one that works and is kind of working on our peak hours. Sorry. He's been working on off hours, so he kind of rotates throughout all the neighborhoods, just trying to help people understand that we still have a need to water on the odd even days. We also want people to be aware if they're water wasting. We just created a new noticing form so that if somebody's sprinkler head is popped off and we want to notify them, just as we're driving by, we notice it. We're on different hours maybe that they're not watching it. Maybe sometimes we're early in the morning and we can drop off a little notice that, hey, you need to get this fixed type of a thing. Because I think a lot of that happens. People just don't know that because they're watering in the early morning and they don't see it. And so, and if anybody else wants to report anonymously, hey, my neighbor's water is kind of consistently having problems or they're watering a lot, we can just run a notice by and say, hey, just remember, we're all in this together. We got to all conserve if we want to continue to have water together as well and not lose it at the end of the season. So,
Perfect. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Marty.
Thank you. All right, well, Denise, do you have anything? You bring? Kathy, anything? Dina? And Kyler? No? Well, Scott, you want to brief us on our next coming meeting?
We don't have much for August 4th. We do have what Marty was alluding to with a particular agreement with the storm drain stuff. But I just want to address next week, our mid-year retreat will be Wednesday. We are planning on holding it here. We feel like there is enough room. We can social distance. We'll figure out a way to keep our social distance, but maybe have these guys a little bit closer so that we don't have to yell in order to have communications. I'll have a draft agenda sent out. I'm hoping this Thursday. This is bad timing on my end. I'm out of town on Monday and Tuesday. And so I'm trying to have everything prepped and ready to go Thursday, since Friday's a holiday, for our retreat. Now, we're going to talk quite a bit of budget. That's going to be a good portion of our discussion. What our budget, based on our sales tax revenues, since we've adopted a budget and some of the newer information that we have. We're going to talk about capital projects. Some money's been freed up for that. And then we're going to talk about the COVID money that we've received from the county and some potential uses for that. That'll be a big part of it. We'll have each department do a report a little more in depth than what you get on a given Tuesday night. And then we'll also have update on projects. I know Marty talked about a few of those, but also Dion on some of the projects that they have. And we'll have a bit to talk about. We're scheduling 4 hours. If we don't take 4 hours, that's fine. I mean, we'll have an agenda and we'll just see how long it takes us. We are planning on doing a lunch as part of this, or maybe breakfast. I don't know. It might be better to do breakfast since we might not last till 12 o'clock or 12:30. But our intent is 8:30 to 12:30.
That's wishful thinking we won't be. It'll only take
Maybe
4
we'll have
hours.
breakfast and lunch when we're all set done. But any questions about that?
That's Wednesday, right?
Yeah, so it's next Wednesday, next week, right here. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll turn to the council here. Sid?
No. Well, hold on.
Oh,
Wonderful
oh, oh,
event
oh,
by
oh.
Eric.
You've already said,
A wonderful event hosted by the Pleasant Grove Linden Chamber of Commerce last night in the downtown park. Eric was responsible for that, and his assistant Bailey. That was awesome, and we need more of those, Eric.
Awesome.
Really great.
Wonderful night in the park.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Shane Lee Band, my new favorite.
I know.
what's interesting about that?
I was upset there was no Mexican truck there.
They did
was
call
I've
one
already,
in, but
I've already talked to Daniel. He said he'll have his taco
Food.
truck
there we
here
go.
by next month. so-
Daniel, get the truck here.
So that was the first order of business that I had with Daniel.
Your
this
job.
evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a truck.
You know what's interesting about those type of events, Mayor, is that those type of community events in the park sets the tone for a community, and it sets a culture for the community. And it's something that I absolutely support and believe we need more of.
Well,
That's
and hey,
great.
there was good turnout for the concert in the park on
Yep.
Sunday too. So-
That's great.
Councilmember Jensen.
it was a good turnout. We did have a taco truck call hour before, but it wasn't enough time for them to provide us all the paperwork that we needed to have for them to be there. So next time.
Why
the
didn't they
taco
just show up and then we could forgive them afterwards?
I know, yeah. They'd have to deal with, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
They'd have to
Always
deal with
gets
code
annoying.
enforcement,
Yes.
so.
We don't have a code enforcer. We'll do
It
just
would have
like
been
we've always
Daniel
done.
doing the,
How many applicants do we have on that position, Kyler?
You know, one.
Anyway, so it was good. It was a good turnout. I thought that it was a good thing for, like Todd said, for our community. We have some more in store, and off we go.
Good.
Can I just jump back in, because the code enforcement thing came up? We did get one applicant for this position. We are, myself and Denise are working on a proposal for you that we'll talk about next week that will include a full-time code enforcement officer. So the part-time thing's not going to work. We're not going to be able to attract somebody to the position. So there are some things that have to happen, and we'll have some discussions leading into that. I just want to let you know we're working towards getting that to be a full-time position.
Thanks, Scott.
is that a retreat conversation?
We'll see. I mean, part of it will be and part of it won't. Some of it will need to be offline a little bit on what we're doing in order to have it happen.
Councilman Anderson.
Delightful evening last night, just perfect. Sunset, music, my family all there, dance, kids, my grands dancing. It was amazing. So thank you, Eric. Thank you, your assistant. And maybe that's something that we also need to discuss is how we can.
Future events?
Future
I'll
events.
put that on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thanks. I don't have anything.
Nothing?
I don't have anything. Thanks.
Okay. Again, we received a card today from Follow the Flag, from the Foxes and a few other people, and I'll read this to you here. Dear Pleasant Grove City, thank you so much for all the time you have put in behalf of the Follow the Flag organization. We appreciate your willingness to always be patient and work with us, as you are rock stars and we couldn't do it without you, sincerely. So the Foxes. So we're glad that, and in fact, on our Forest Service call this last Thursday, our first forest manager from, he says, we got to continue on with that. He's glad to support that, and he says that's a great thing that Pleasant Grove's got going on there, and he's totally supportive of it there.
Is there a time we can get the Foxes in here to thank them, and then also David Hartle, maybe 2 separate meetings?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with David Hartle.
I'll send you his contact information. He has the Star Up on the Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
Both of those are significant projects that take a lot of time and effort and that have really impacted our community.
Oh, yeah.
So if we could,
So get him in here for a work session?
yeah, just thank them publicly from the mayor and council.
Yeah, if you can give me David's information, I have Kyle's. So.
And we can do them on a couple separate nights or something.
Saratoga Springs appreciates the star up there.
I know. It's awesome.
Hey, you can really see,
Yeah, you can really see it.
yeah, there's, anyway, is there anything else that the council needs to bring up?
Well, I think maybe on the agenda, it would be very appropriate to also talk about the flag and the future and what our role is there too.
Okay. For our
Follow the flag?
Yeah, on the retreat
in
agenda.
our work session.
agenda.
For the
I mean, in our
follow the flag.
retreat,
Follow the flag.
talk about Follow the Flag, how we can be more supportive there. Maybe put that on there.
Get lunch. Yes.
Well, we have made our goal this evening to be done earlier than normal. So with that, if there's no other things the council needs to bring up, I ask for a motion to adjourn. I have a motion by Councilmember Jensen. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilmember Williams. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?